If you thought you'd seen it all, think again. This is Hood Files, where secrets don't whisper, they detonate. Tonight's headline isn't just messy, it's explosive. Kianti arrested after a brutal night party confrontation that left Chrisean Rock shaken and Pooh Shiesty seeing red. What was supposed to be flashing lights, celebrity vibes, and quiet flexing turned into chaos faster than anyone could process. One moment, Chrisean Rock is stepping out like nothing can touch her. The next, an old name walks in, and the temperature of the room drops instantly. Witnesses claim energy shifted. Security stiffened. Phones came out. And then, according to online accounts, everything spiraled. The internet couldn't believe it. And trust me, you won't either. Blogs lit up. Group chats exploded. And timelines filled with one question. How did this night end with handcuffs? Because this wasn't just a party. This was history colliding with ego, jealousy, and unfinished business under bright lights. And Pooh Shiesty? Sources say he snapped, not for clout, but for protection. So let me ask you this. If you were in that room, same betrayal, same pressure, same spotlight, what would you do? Walk away or lose control? The night didn't start with screaming or flashing red lights. It never does, according to people claiming to have been there. It began quietly, almost deceptively normal, the kind of calm that only exists right before something breaks. Chrisean Rock and Pooh Shiesty walked into the venue like a statement without words. Cameras noticed, heads turned, whispers followed. This wasn't just another appearance. It felt intentional, like a message sent without typing. For days leading up to that night, the internet had been hovering over them. Every post, every silence, every emoji dissected. Fans weren't just watching, they were waiting. Waiting for confirmation, waiting for chaos, waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when Chrisean and Pooh appeared together in a public space, it didn't read as casual. It read as defiant. According to online chatter, Chrisean looked different that night. Not chaotic, not loud, guarded, focused, almost like someone walking into a room already knowing the exit. Pooh Shiesty, by contrast, was described as alert, not aggressive, just aware. The kind of awareness that comes when you know your past has a habit of showing up uninvited. And that past had a name. What most people didn't realize at the time was that this party wasn't just another celebrity hangout. It was layered on top of months of rumors, half-finished stories, and unresolved timelines. There were whispers online about old relationships, emotional debts, and narratives that never got a clean ending. One name kept floating in comment sections, never trending, never disappearing either. Kianti. She hadn't been visible. She hadn't been loud. But she had never really left the story. According to multiple unverified accounts, Kianti arrived separately. No announcement, no dramatic entrance, just presence. And sometimes presence is louder than a microphone. People who claim they recognize her say the room changed almost instantly. Conversations slowed, phones tilted downward, recording without being obvious. The kind of shift you feel before you understand why. This wasn't coincidence. This was collision. Online, Kianti had always existed in the margins of the Pooh Shiesty narrative. Not front page, not forgotten, mentioned just enough to matter. Commenters had brought her up for years, especially when discussions turned emotional, especially when rumors involving a child circulated, never confirmed, never denied, just heavy enough to linger. So when she entered that same space, the story stopped being theoretical. It became physical, not violent yet, just unavoidable. Sources claiming to be nearby say Kianti noticed Chrisean almost immediately, and Chrisean noticed her right back. No shouting, no pointing, just recognition. The kind where both people know exactly who the other is without introductions. That moment alone reportedly tightened the air. From there, the night stopped moving forward and started folding inward on itself. Some accounts say words were exchanged. Others insist it was body language. A step too close. A look held too long. A sentence spoken just loud enough to land. The internet would later argue endlessly about who started it, but nearly every version agreed on one thing. Whatever was said, it wasn't small, and it wasn't playful. This moment didn't exist in isolation. It carried the weight of everything said online before it. Every rumor, every comment, every theory suddenly had faces in the same room. When narratives collide like that, restraint becomes fragile. People claiming proximity to the situation later suggested Kianti wasn't reacting to the party itself. She was reacting to weeks of buildup, to watching her past be publicly rewritten without her voice, to seeing someone else positioned in a role she believed had context missing. And when someone feels erased, the response is rarely calm. According to widely shared but unverified posts, the situation escalated fast, not with screaming, not with theatrics, with motion, a sudden move forward, security shifting, people stepping back instinctively, the kind of movement that tells a room something is about to go wrong. Social media would later explode with claims that Kianti attacked Chrisean. The word attack did a lot of work online. Some described it as physical, others as confrontational, others as an attempted lunge that never fully landed. No clear footage surfaced. No clean video went viral. Just fragments stitched together by panic and speculation. But what mattered wasn't the mechanics. It was a reaction. Because according to nearly every retelling, Pooh Shiesty snapped. Not theatrically, not for cameras. In that raw, instinctive way that happens when control slips for half a second. Witnesses claim his demeanor shifted immediately. Calm replaced by fury. Distance replaced by movement. And in that instant, the entire room reportedly locked onto him. Security moved quickly. People were separated. Music swallowed raised voices. And just like that, the party was no longer a party. It was a story. Phones were already uploading. Messages already flying. You won't believe what just happened. The night escaped containment before anyone could slow it down. But here's the thing. What happened in that room wasn't a scandal. It was a spark. The Rayall story lived in what came before. The emotional landmines. The unresolved history. The pressure that had been building quietly for months. Once that pressure found a public release, there was no version of the night that ended clean. And while people online rushed to pick sides, something else was already forming behind the scenes. Something heavier. Something with consequences. Because what came next, even his enemies didn't expect. The aftermath didn't wait for confirmation. It never does. By the time people spilled out of the venue and into the night air, the story had already slipped out of the room and into the internet's bloodstream. According to online chatter, phones were buzzing before engines even turned over. Half-formed versions of the same incident raced through group chats, each retelling sharper, louder, and more confident than the last. And as always, the loudest version won first. Within hours, blogs started publishing headlines that read like verdicts instead of questions. Words like attack, meltdown, and arrest did the heavy lifting. Names were bolded. Context was optional. No footage required. The algorithm didn't need proof. It needed momentum. And momentum was everywhere. Anonymous accounts claiming to be close to the scene began dropping details. Some said Kianti had been holding everything in for weeks. Others claimed Chrisean knew she'd be there and went anyway. A few insisted the entire night was bait. None of it came with receipts. All of it came with confidence. And confidence spreads faster than facts. One widely shared thread claimed the confrontation had nothing to do with the party at all. According to that version, the real trigger was optics. Seeing Chrisean publicly positioned beside Pooh, framed as something permanent, something official, allegedly flipped the switch. The post ended with a line that went viral instantly. Imagine watching your past get replaced in real time. That sentence alone was reposted thousands of times. Stripped of context, treated like prophecy. Then came the screenshots. Blurry, cropped, missing timestamps. Alleged DMs surfaced from burner accounts that had never posted before. One message claimed Kianti had warned people days earlier that if she crossed paths with Chrisean, it wouldn't be peaceful. Another claimed Pooh had been advised to avoid public appearances altogether. No verification, no source names, just enough plausibility to feel real. Reaction channels didn't wait. Thumbnails went up before facts could catch up. Opinions locked in. One creator framed the moment as inevitable. Another framed it as betrayal. Both monetized the uncertainty, because nothing fuels engagement like unresolved chaos. As the noise grew, so did the claims. A blog alleged security footage existed. Another hinted that lawyers had already been contacted. A third suggested the incident would trigger legal consequences. None of it confirmed. But once the word investigation entered the conversation, even hypothetically, the tone shifted. The joke slowed. The takes got colder. Behind the scenes, according to accounts that surfaced later, law enforcement became part of the story. Not dramatically, not publicly, quietly. Reports began circulating that Kianti had been detained and later arrested in connection with the alleged incident. No official statement surfaced immediately. No press conference. Just the word arrest appearing in headlines like a final stamp. That single word changed everything. Because suddenly this wasn't just about who snapped. It was about consequences. Handcuffs have a way of sobering even the loudest timelines. Fans who had been joking hours earlier started asking questions. What exactly happened? Who called who? What crossed the line? And then the focus snapped back to Pooh Shiesty. According to multiple versions of the story, he didn't just react emotionally. He reacted decisively, protective, focused, the kind of response that reads differently depending on who's watching. Some framed it as loyalty, others as volatility. A few accused him of letting unresolved history explode in public. The internet split itself neatly into sides. Chrisean, meanwhile, stayed quiet. No long post, no clarification, no live, just absence. And absence, in moments like this, becomes a canvas. Fans filled it quickly. Some said she was shaken. Others said she was done entertaining chaos. A few insisted the silence meant strategy. Because when someone known for reacting doesn't react, people assume calculation. Kianti's name began trending in pockets, not everywhere at once. It wasn't a spike. It was a creep. Old posts resurfaced. Past captions reinterpreted. Fans built timelines stretching years back, connecting dots that may or may not belong together. And the most dangerous part was how convincing it all looked when arranged side by side. Reaction channels leaned into psychology. This isn't about one night, one host said. This is about unresolved history colliding with public pressure. That clip circulated widely. Another creator argued the opposite. Nah, this was always coming. You can't put these people in the same space and expect peace. Both narratives gained traction. Neither required proof. Then came the alleged voice notes. Short, distorted, claimed to be from people present. One described shouting. Another described security pulling people apart. A third claimed Pooh had to be restrained. Again, nothing verified. But emotional detail does heavy lifting online. Listeners filled in visuals themselves. The internet's favorite move followed next, moral alignment. Fans chose sides fast. Some defended Chrisean, arguing that no one deserves to be confronted publicly. Others sympathized with Kianti, framing her reaction as a result of being erased. A smaller but louder group criticized Pooh, saying his inability to manage his past had finally caught up with him. And just like that, the story stopped being about what happened and became about what it represented. Private accounts began posting cryptic messages. Truth always comes out. Y'all don't know half of it. This isn't over. None named names. All implied proximity. Screenshots spread faster than originals, stripped of context, amplified by speculation. As hours turned into days, the narrative hardened. Arrest rumors solidified into assumed facts. Headlines stopped using words like alleged. The internet decided what happened before anyone involved said a word. And once a narrative hardens, it rarely softens. But just when it seemed like the story had reached its loudest point, something unexpected happened. It slowed. No new leaks. No surprise lives. No explosive responses. Silence settled in, heavy and uncomfortable. And in that quiet, a new whisper began to circulate. A name mentioned casually. A detail that didn't quite fit. A suggestion that the story everyone thought they understood was missing a piece. And just when we thought it was over, another name came up. The days after the arrest didn't feel like relief. They felt heavier. According to online chatter, once the adrenaline burned off, everyone involved moved differently. No victory posts, no cryptic laughs, just distance. And distance in a story like this is rarely accidental. It's a signal, sometimes of strategy, sometimes of damage control, sometimes of shock settling in. Chrisean Rock stayed mostly offline. When she did resurface, it wasn't with explanations or defenses. No long captions, no emotional live streams, just subtle movements. A repost here, a like there, short messages that didn't mention the incident at all. Fans read into everything. Some said she looked drained. Others said she looked relieved. A few insisted the calm was performative, the calm of someone holding the door shut while chaos pounds from the other side. And when someone known for reacting suddenly doesn't, people don't assume peace. They assume calculation. Pooh Shiesty, meanwhile, became the loudest presence without actually being present. His name trended in cycles, usually attached to speculation instead of statements. Some claimed he was furious behind the scenes. Others said he was being advised to stay silent at all costs. The internet debated whether silence meant guilt, maturity, or growth. None of those interpretations came from him. They came from the vacuum he left behind. And vacuums are dangerous. Kianti's role in the story shifted next. What started as spark slowly turned into symbol. In the days that followed, she didn't capitalize on attention. No interviews, no tell-alls, no monetized outrage. That absence complicated the narrative even more. Because when someone doesn't chase the spotlight after being placed at the center of scandal, it disrupts expectations. People began asking whether the confrontation had already cost her more than it gave her. Anonymous posts started reframing the night as emotional fallout rather than aggression. A few threads argued that what happened wasn't about jealousy or control, but grief. The grief of watching a shared history be overwritten publicly. The grief of seeing a narrative conclude without your consent. Those takes didn't go as viral as the dramatic ones, but they lingered longer, quietly reshaping how some viewers interpreted the chaos. As the weeks passed, the tone online shifted again. Outrage cooled into unease. Comment sections that once joked about messy timelines started sounding tired. This feels darker than entertainment. Nobody wins here. This is exhausting to watch. When audiences move from excitement to fatigue, it usually means a spectacle has crossed into something heavier. Speculation about consequences followed naturally. Would there be legal fallout? Would venues quietly tighten security around future appearances? Would brands step back without saying so publicly? Bloggers floated hypotheticals with confidence. None confirmed. All amplified. And even without official consequences, reputational damage has a way of sticking where paperwork never does. People also began re-examining the lead-up. The warning signs that seemed obvious only in hindsight. The comments that now read like foreshadowing. Fans replayed old clips, dissecting facial expressions, tone, pauses, searching for proof that chaos follows rules. In reality, they were searching for comfort in pattern recognition, a way to believe this was predictable, a way to believe it could have been avoided. The strangest shift came when empathy entered the conversation. Not loudly, not universally, but enough to matter. Viewers started acknowledging the human cost of living inside an algorithm-fed trial. Imagine never getting to make mistakes privately. Imagine every argument turning into content. Those comments didn't trend, but they changed the temperature. Because once people stop seeing characters and start seeing people, the entertainment value drops. Behind the scenes, according to unverified whispers, opportunities stalled, meetings postponed, collaborations paused. The phrase, "let's revisit this later," reportedly became common. Whether true or not, the idea stuck. Because silence doesn't just protect, it isolates. And isolation can be louder than backlash. Then came the quietest twist of all. Nothing happened. Days passed without escalation. No new leaks. No surprise statements. No explosive responses. The internet waited, refreshing feeds like gamblers watching a roulette wheel that refused to spin. And when nothing came, discomfort set in, because unresolved stories don't end cleanly. They just stop talking back. Some fans framed the quiet as growth. Others called it retreat. A few insisted it was survival. The truth, as always, sat somewhere between interpretation and reality. And reality doesn't announce itself online. The incident faded from trending lists, replaced by the next scandal, the next outrage, the next distraction. But fading doesn't mean disappearing. Search results linger. Clips resurface. References resurface. And every time one of their names trends again, this night will be part of the context, whether anyone wants it to be or not. What remains most unsettling isn't who did what or who reacted how. It's how quickly private emotion became public spectacle. How easily pain turned into content. How fast the internet moved from curiosity to condemnation without ever slowing down to verify. And how silence, once again, became the loudest voice in the room. Because in the end, this wasn't really about a party or an arrest. It was about what happens when unresolved history walks into a spotlight that never turns off, when pressure meets exposure, when narratives collide without mercy. Somewhere in the middle of all this noise, the truth became optional. Feelings replaced facts. Momentum replaced clarity. And everyone involved was left carrying pieces of a story they no longer controlled. She vanished without a trace. But the secret stayed. Now here's where you come in, because stories like this don't actually end when the music stops or the headlines fade. They end when the audience decides what they believe. Think about everything that just unfolded. A night that was supposed to be ordinary spiraled into chaos. Old history collided with public pressure. Silence followed noise. And suddenly, everyone involved was trapped inside a narrative they didn't fully control. No clean footage. No official explanations. Just fragments, rumors, reactions, and people choosing side in real time. So ask yourself this, was this inevitable? Was it a moment of raw emotion finally boiling over? Or the result of years of unfinished business, ignored for too long? Was silence the smartest move? Or did it allow the loudest voices to rewrite the truth? Because here's the uncomfortable reality. The internet doesn't wait for facts. It reacts to feelings. Once a story catches momentum, confirmation becomes optional. Damage happens anyway. Reputations shift. Opportunities pause. And private pain becomes public spectacle before anyone can slow it down. And that raises a bigger question, one we don't talk about enough. When everything becomes content, where does accountability actually live? With the people involved or with the audience consuming it? So we want to hear from you. What do you really think happened that night? Who crossed the line? If anyone did. And if you were in that position, same past, same pressure, same spotlight, would you have stayed silent or spoken up? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Read what others are saying. Challenge each other respectfully, because the most revealing conversations don't happen in headlines. They happen right here. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this story isn't over. Not even close. We're watching every move, every silence, every shift the blogs miss. When the next update drops, and it will, you'll want to be here before the narrative gets rewritten again. This is Hood Files. We don't rush to judge, but we never stop watching.